you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak here today, and we're based in Richmond, so pretty close here. So how many of you are interested in entrepreneurship? Is that, I understand that's part of the class here? Yeah. So how many of you think in 5 years you're gonna, or 10 years you're gonna have your own business or be a partner in a business? And even if you don't, it's good to learn about entrepreneurship and sometimes working for another company, you can learn to make mistakes on someone else's dime until you do it yourself. You know? So I'm going to talk a little about our company. First, I have a video that I'm going to show. Let's see if we can work. This is something we just came out with. And we're an organic superfood company, and this is just released this. Tell you a little about kind of how we're communicating the message of our company.
We all depend on the soil and a thriving planet to sustain us and to grow delicious, nutritious food. It's why we give 1% of sales to groups that advocate for a better food system, that plant trees in community gardens, and that teach children that eating healthy foods will nourish their bodies and minds as they grow. It's why we support regenerative agriculture, which reduces climate change, builds healthy soil, and conserves water. That's why at Nutiva, we source from farmers who avoid synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. We see it as an investment in our collective future. In this way, we offer superfoods without compromising future generations' ability to do the same. Our health, the health of our soils, and the health of our planet are one. At Nutiva, we are revolutionizing the way the world eats.
Okay, thanks for watching that. Just finished that, and one of the important things that for any company is to tell your story, and so that's our way. And you notice it was maybe about 80 seconds. If you're going to do videos, you know, a lot of companies will do like a 4-minute video, but who wants to sit there and watch for 4 minutes, right? Especially your generation, right? You're just like next, you know, the next social media thing you want to look at. So it's important to be having good sound bites. So this is one of the things that kind of captures our company. I founded the company, by the way, in 1999. Nutiva nurtures vitality by conscious curating the world's finest organic plant food ingredients. Some of our products here. We specialize in coconut, hemp, and chia, and red palm. And basically, we started out with hemp, and they were hard to get, and that's one of the reasons why we started out with there. And I'll tell you a little more about that. Some of the challenges of the company, kind of how we've grown, and then also a little about regenerative agriculture, and then also the power of the millennial generation to change the world, both economically and also socially. So this is one of the things that separates Nutiva from a lot of companies. We donate 1% of our sales to groups that promote sustainable agriculture. So we've given away over $3.6 million to date, and these are some of the companies. For instance, we put in a fruit tree orchard, at every public school in the city of Richmond, so kids in inner cities they can actually experience and see what a fruit looks like. You know, sadly, almost maybe a quarter or half of the kids in America today have never eaten like a peach. Have never eaten something outside of, let's say, a tomato, or never even eaten a whole tomato or plum. So it's not that way in the rest of the world. But America has some of the one of the worst food systems. In some ways, it's one of the best because everybody has access to a lot of it, except at least a good percentage of a lot of calories, but it's not always a high quality. How many people have ever composted or taken organic matter to compost at your house? That's about a third. Yeah, that's good. That's actually what I used to do. My other business was I helped set up home composting programs in the 1990s. The ability for us as a society and individuals to understand compost and soil is going to become very important And as we'll learn a little later, unless your generation takes this up significantly, you're not going to have the opportunities that I've been able to experience in terms of your lifetime because of what we're doing to the planet. And a lot of the things that you're being told about climate change, it's being sugar-coated. They're kind of varnishing the reality, so as not to kind of like scare people. And also the thing to understand is about scientists. Scientists really want to be, when they say something, they really want to go, I have all this evidence, and I'm not going to state something that maybe I'm not quite sure. But if you just look like 5 to 10 or 15 years ago, the idea that the oceans would rise up like a foot was like an outrageous statement in 2100. So every 2 years now, they pretty much, whatever they said was going to happen is now doubling. Every 2 years, the degree that it's coming to the planet. So we're going to talk a little about how I started the company here tonight. Some of the growing pains. Do you think when you start a business, do you think there's some challenges? I've had my share of challenges for sure. A little about the power of millennials, I talked about that. And then the soil and ocean health. How many people understand that there's a connection between the ocean health and soil health? A few of you do? Okay. Yeah. Good. Well, we'll get into that. It might be a little depressing for you, but then again, maybe you want to know what's coming around the bend, so you have some opportunity to make some course corrections in your life and in whatever organization you end up working with. So I started out with 500 hemp bars in 1999, sold those, made another 1,000 bars, eventually sold a few million bars, and then I added coconut and hemp seeds and other products, and we've been fortunate to be at Inc. Magazine fastest growing company for 7 years in a row. It was in the 5,000 fastest growing companies. Basically grew about 50% a year for 10 years. Our growth has slowed down now. We'll talk a little about how that happened a little. These are some of the retailers that we're in, where our products are sold worldwide. Costco, Amazon, Target, Whole Foods. How many people have heard of Thrive Market? This is probably the most successful food business ever started. In 18 months, they went from 0 to 500 million valuation. When my friends who had this idea, I said, "You mean you're going to try to be like the Costco club membership online and carry the products that Whole Foods has?" So that's a pretty tall order, and they pulled it off. They just raised $100 million and we've been in business 18 months. Thrive Marketplace. So it's a really interesting model. And Gunnar, who started the company, he's in his mid-30s, been very successful. Investors are just throwing money at him, and they're growing very fast, and we're one of their top-selling brands. So let's talk a little about some of the challenges that we've faced as a company. For the first, we're 17 years old. For the first 15 years, we had really surging demand. We were constantly out of stocking, could never get enough product because we took something that was really hard to get. It's not like it's like Google. You just build another server farm, and then more people can download your service, whatever. So it was a limited supply for organic, exotic botanicals. I mean, you couldn't go and buy container loads of virgin coconut oil up until about a year and a half ago. So it was hard to get, and that was kind of our strength, but was also our challenge as well. We also had some issues around port congestion. The ports were I don't know if you guys knew, but it was about a year ago. The ports were basically, it was about half capacity here on the West Coast, and it was really tough because the 6 months about a year before that, there was a major typhoon in the Philippines. People remember that typhoon? Like 6,000 people were killed in the Philippines, which was horrible and tragic. But a lot of the coconuts that our farmers had that were certified organic got knocked off on the trees. So we lost 40% of our supply overnight, and then our cost of goods went up 40%. Imagine what that did to your bottom line. And then slowly we started bringing on some more suppliers, and then the port strike happened. It was almost like being in a cage fight. Someone hit you, you fell down, and then they just kicked you as hard as they could right in your side. It was like we almost went out of business because, and then ironically, to tons of companies went up and set up other facilities, and everybody kept saying, oh, we need all this coconut oil, and now it went from a massive shortage to a massive surplus. So we went from not enough to then too much. When there'd never been a surplus of these products. And then it kind of did the same thing with chia. How many people have eaten chia seeds before? Yeah, we were like corner of the chia seed market. We controlled like 60% of organic chia seed worldwide. And again, we had some weather issues. And then everybody says, this little chia is like black gold down in South America. They plant it fence row to fence row, and the price crashed. And now we have like hundreds of competitors in chia where we didn't before. We were the people you had to come to. And this actually slide was actually, I created this, I just pulled this off. This was like I presented like a year and a half ago. So we don't have the surging demand for these products anymore. There's not a limited supply. There's no more port congestion, and we were able to raise some capital. But this was kind of when we were at about, about 18 months ago when we presented this. But the one thing is that is constant is maintaining culture and values. And that's something as an entrepreneur I didn't pay so much attention to when it was myself and like 3 others. It was just like, okay, we got to get the work done, and look, if you're not going to pull your weight, just why don't you just leave and let me get somebody else, okay? I get someone else if you're not going to do the job. But do you think you can run the company that way with 120 people? You can't run it that way. You have to have an HR department. There's a lot more things. So you really, and so about 3, I remember reading a book. Does anybody know about Zappos? Tony Hsieh, he wrote a really great book about, I think, something happiness is the name of the chapter, the book. So I really recommend that book. The idea is when you have all these people working in the company, it's harder for the entrepreneur and the CEO to really know what's going on. I always joke, if you want to find out what's going on in the company, don't ask the CEO, because the CEO usually doesn't know. They might think that they do, because there's, as the company grows. So you really have to build that culture, and so we've done a lot of different things. We have something called Tribal Thursday, where every other Thursday we come together and we talk for half an hour with everybody, who, not necessarily all the production workers, but everybody in the office, and then certain people in the production and manufacturing. So different departments will present, because sometimes one department will be doing something the other department doesn't even know it. And that's part of the challenge. How do you get everybody to communicate? And then when someone messes up, what do? Do you go in and you start yelling at them, or do you give them a little warning, or how do you communicate that? And that all builds culture. It's just like the teachers. Like you have some teachers, if you mess up and they're just like really blunt with you in front of people, how does that make you feel? Do you want to come back to that class again? Yeah. So but it's not always so easy to do that, especially for entrepreneurs like myself. We're like we're the ones like knock the doors down. You say you can't do it, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And then now you have to like wear a different hat and be a better communicator and a better facilitator, and that's not always so easy to do. And sometimes it's kind of frustrating, because a lot of times people just don't do what they say they do, and they kind of bullshit, and then you go, really, I have to deal with this? I want to focus on the next new product instead of dealing with that. So it's definitely a challenge. Talking about some of the sales, the natural food industry, organic food sales really growing rapidly here, 45 billion in 2015. So it's a rapidly growing, and it's getting hyper competitive also. So I mean, basically, we have to play among the the giants and the Costco's and the Walmarts and the Whole Foods and the UNFIs and Amazon, and it's like when you deal with those kind of companies. When you're really small, you can kind of get a free pass, and they'll kind of help you out a little. But once you get a little bigger, they take the gloves off, and you have to deal with that, and it's a challenging environment, to say the least. And the reality is, a lot of these companies don't do things that are legal. They do all sorts of different maneuvers that if you actually but do you think you want to challenge them, or do you just want to get on with your business and do that? So you're going to get a lot of kind of surprises in business you may not be thinking about. Here was something we created. The Real Food Manifesto was a way to communicate to our customers and also our team, and we really get a lot of good feedback. A lot of people share this in social media. Just talking about, like, there's a lot of people who sell coconut oil, but not everybody who sells coconut oil, does, for instance, gives away 100,000 coconut seedlings that we do as part of our company to our farmers. We talk about, ending industrial food subsidies. You think it's good that we subsidize all the worst food in the world and then penalize anybody who tries to do the right thing? Because that's what we do. If you're an organic farmer, you have to go through all these different regulations, and it's harder for you, and you have to like separate, and then someone can spray over your field, and then it contaminates it, and then that causes issue. But if you're a GMO farmer and you're contaminating groundwater, I mean, there's different regulations. Believe me, it's not like they don't get a free pass, but they're subsidized. So one of the ironies in America today is the more polluting and worse you are for society, the more benefit you get. Now some industries have been able to really, like the wind and solar, have been able to get that, but that's a small sector. So it's our policies in the federal government are really not very well put together. But it's because, why do you think that's the case? It's because of the lobbyists and the industries that are so profitable. Then they can just spend, like the pharmaceutical industry. It's like a joke. They can do whatever they want to in Washington D.C. They have like 20 lobbyists for every member of Congress. And if anybody crosses them, they just go, hey, there's the next election. You want to take on the pharmaceutical industry, or are you going to pass this bill that we want you to do? What are you going to do? So Washington D.C. is a lot more corrupt than people are willing to admit. And one of the ironies is we actually, the Bush administration said that hemp foods were in the same category as heroin. So how many people have hemp seeds at their home or are eating hemp seeds or hemp foods? So a few of you, okay? It's not a drug crop, but they were going to say it was like this. I was in the same category as heroin, and we either were going to go out of business or had to sue the federal government. So so I decided to sue. Luckily, Dr. Bronner's in Nature's Path. We got a bunch of people. That's one thing. If you're dealing in an industry or whatever, you need to network with people. You can't just do it on your own. So we did that, and we were lucky to win that case. So one of the things that we've done is, one of our challenges is we pioneered coconut oil, hemp seeds, and chia seed, and now that there's more available of that raw materials, we have a lot of competitors. Like all of a sudden, we were dominating Amazon.com. You just do a search, it was all Nutiva, and then all of a sudden there's these people we've never even heard of, and all they do is just focus on Amazon. They do all these ads, they pay all these people, and all of a sudden, like, our market share is like slipped away a little. So now we're doing what we call value-added items. So this is one of our products, our plant protein superfood 30. So we're taking different superfoods, including hemp and chia, but more of them putting together. We're basically, how many people have used like Vega or Garden of Life? It's like, in 5 or 10 years from now, you probably, because it's a little expensive, you probably be doing more. So this is a better tasting version that's also organic. So it's a product we're just launching. And then this product, how many people eat Nutella? It's a lot, yeah. Do you know it's one of the worst foods you can eat in the world? It's so high in sugar, it's so devoid of any nutrition. But you eat it because why? Because it tastes great. So we've created a product, this is going on social media, that's basically a healthier version of Nutella. It's 40% less sugar, it's got 5 times the amount of fiber, and also all the products in Nutella are all grown in an industrial manner. And we're going to talk a little about what industrial agriculture does to our world. But this is a new product we're really excited about. We're going to launch it in a month from now. And I've been on R&D for a year. So this has organic, go ahead.
How does it taste?
Tastes phenomenal. And we have kids, little kids say it tastes better than Nutella. So it's not as sweet as Nutella, but we've been able to, we put, it's more of a robust flavor. So some of the Nutella knockoffs, I don't know if some of you guys have tried, they just don't quite have the spreadability. They're kind of like, it's a little more dense, so it's very spreadable, very creamy, and we have a classic and a dark. So definitely, you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll be announcing when it's coming out. But I bring you some samples, but the production line was literally last Wednesday. So we're just rolling this out. So we got a lot riding on these. So that's an idea of shifting your business model. It's really important in business. It's like, what is your, how many people have heard about the idea of hockey? Wayne Gretzky says, don't skate to where the puck is, skate where the puck's going to be. So you need to look at where the markets is. I mean, I was pretty good at going, okay, I think coconut oil, people are going to get into coconut oil in 2003, and we were right, and coconut oil really hit. But I didn't anticipate there would be so much extra capacity that then our margins would be, and our customers, we'd have more competitors. So if I was 1 year earlier on this, our company would be in a much stronger position. So now we're kind of having to really execute well on this, and the kind of the pressure is on to deliver on the sales and more profitability. So a little about brand identity. How many people are interested in branding and marketing? So it's really important, even if you're in the engineering or even if you're in operations, how you communicate as a brand. This was our packaging. That was our first like 11, 12 years. We knew we needed to change it, but it's expensive. So this was kind of our look and feel. Oh, by the way, I want to ask, how many people have ever had a Nutiva product before? I'm just curious. So maybe, yeah, about 10, 15, 20%. Okay, that's good. So here's our old look, and now is our new look. You can see it's a little more streamlined. We used some watercolors to do this, and now we've actually created another riff off this on how we're doing value added. So we had to create a brand design packaging system to allow us to go to that next level, and that's if you're involved in CPG, you have to really think about what next step, like 3 or 4 chess games ahead. And so this new, we finally figured out how we're going to do this, because we had this new way to do our packaging, and then we said, okay, now we have 30 ingredients. What do we do? And we hit a wall, and we didn't know how to go to that next level. And so we now came up with a system that works, that still looks similar to this, but has its own kind of brand architecture and packaging that can move forward on that. Yeah.
The old book, the slide said you followed it under the core supplements category.
Yeah.
Is there a branding change?
Yes.
The category you
yeah, it was kind of like more of a health food kind of look. It was kind of dated, kind of like an 80s or 90s health food kind of look, and so we changed it. We're both in the supplements category at Whole Foods. Like you go in the Whole Foods, we're in the vitamins section. We're also in the grocery section. But our future is a bigger part of our future is going to be more in grocery. And these are some of the, we did some consumer surveys about why people are buying our products. It kind of shows you trust, quality, loves the company, what it stands for, good reviews and recommendations. I mean, there's a great, I think one of the best things about, like in terms of marketing, instead of spending money on marketing, it's better to spend money on the quality and uniqueness of your product, and then let your customers celebrate that uniqueness and that quality through Instagram, Facebook, telling word of mouth, etc. So the old model was make products that had great margin, that were maybe not that good, and just use ABC, NBC, and CBS when there's only 3 TV stations. There wasn't such a thing as the internet. That was the old model. But these big corporations that follow that old model, that's not working so well anymore. So so new model is you have to really have a good because if it doesn't work out, social media can really hit on that. And this just shows you stat: 90% of Americans likely to trust brands that back social causes. So for us, we do regenerative agriculture and sustainable agriculture. Anybody familiar with this quote? Thomas Jefferson: "The end of democracy and the defeat of the American Revolution will occur when government falls into the hands of lending institution, money, and corporations." Thomas Jefferson. Do you think do they teach you this in grade school or junior high or high school, or how about in college? Do any of your professors show you this?
Professors.
Yeah. So the idea is Thomas Jefferson was kind of right. That the challenge today is government really has been captured. I mean, I kind of like to say, and that's probably why I wouldn't be a regular professor, right? They wouldn't let me say this that much. But basically, America is a business now. It's no longer a republic. And it's unfortunate. I mean, and I think that's one of the reasons why, if you look at the politics today, without getting into all that, there's a reason why there's a few candidates. There's so much interest in those kind of outsider candidates, letting go about their policies or whatever. But people realize that something's not working, And basically, your generation, you guys have to, as I get a little older here, it's like I'm looking forward. You guys have to step it up, because if you don't, it's not gonna end well. It's not gonna end well, and you guys know that. You know, I'm not telling you anything new, but you know, the reason why things change a lot of times is the young generation. You don't have all the baggage of how to do things, whatever, right? You know, that's a great thing. You know, when I was younger, it's like I just try something. People would say, "You can't do that. You shouldn't do that." You know, I mean, you want to get feedback, but that's the great thing about being when you're younger. You don't have all this history of why you shouldn't. You know, when you start getting older, people get in their 40s or 50s, they have all this reason. Oh, you know, I tried that, and that was a hard work, and I'll just kind of just go along with the program. You know, so I mean. You know, do you think, like, I mean, the reason why Steve Jobs created Apple, right? When he was young, they were just hacking away. Matter of fact, there's a hacker guy named John Draper. Met somehow like a couple decades ago, and he was the one that used to do hacking these phone calls with Wozniak and Jobs. You know, but they were young and they tried these things, and all of a sudden he built this amazing company. You know. And do you think which corporations are lobbying the government to keep the toxic food system a secret? Monsanto, you know, the Grocery Manufacturers Association. So let's talk a little about millennials, the rise of the millennials. By 2017, that's coming up pretty soon, millennials will have more spending power than any other age group. So do you think if you change how you spend your dollars, do you think corporations will listen? Yeah. So this is the real voting with your dollars. And business. So if you want to change the world, if you can change the business and change and educate people to vote with your dollars, yeah. Do you think, you know, there's a reason why that there's a Tesla, or there's, you know, the hybrid cars, because if you ask Ford and General Motors, they all said nobody wants better gas mileage car. They said that all in the media in the last 20 years. Nobody wants a better gas mileage car. They don't interested in that. They don't want a small car. They don't want any of that. They said that over and over and over and over again. But people said no, we want something better. And because of that, they started buying them. And that's starting to change the auto industry. Same way with solar power. Same way with organic foods. Just some stats here. According to Forbes, there's 80 million millennials, 200 billion annual buying power, and brands. Many millennials are starting to see brands are either a problem or a solution to global issues. So how many companies want to be associated with being the problem? They don't want to, right? Now it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to tell you the truth. They want to do some greenwashing and whatever, but more and more they're going in that direction, and so that's a positive. And the other thing that research shows is millennials want authenticity instead of just, you know, another kind of corporate, you know, media spin. So your generation is things are really starting to change. This is from a friend of mine, Robin O'Brien. If you want to learn a lot about allergies in the food sector, she's a good one to follow, Robin O'Brien, R-O-B-Y-N. Parenthood has changed. 1 in 13 kids today have food allergies. How many do you think had it when I was your age? Virtually none. This is all, you know, 1 in 68 children have autism, and it's supposedly now 1 in 42 boys. By the time you guys start having kids, it could be 1 in 10 could be autistic. And this is a huge issue, and it's gonna bankrupt America if we're gonna have 1 out of 10 or 1 out of 20 males are going to have someone really taking care of them a lot, and nothing that they did on their own. And so the question is, why is that occurring? And that's a much longer discussion. But I may have one slide in here. I'm actually presenting at UC Davis on Wednesday. It's funny, I've never presented at UC system before, and now I have 2 in the same week. I don't know how that happened. 1 in 13 kids have asthma, and 1 in 3 have these different health issues. So something's going on in our environment, in our systems and of course this is not being this is not being taught at the medical schools. This is not being taught or being questioned, and they actually have the audacity to say that the reason why these are all happening is we have better data collection systems. How many people have heard that? You heard that? That's the reason why this is going on. And that's completely, that's just like a red herring. That's a way to cover up, because the thing is, imagine if they discovered what was causing this, and you had to deliver that report and it impacted several industries. What would happen to that person's career who discovered that at a university? You think the department chair is going to want them doing research finding this out? You know, like if you were in Iowa State and you said we want to feed GMOs to pigs and we want to assess a non-GMO and GMO for feeding trials, do you think you could get that past the department chair in Iowa State today? But I thought we're supposed to be science-based, right? Are we science-based in America? Do we do things based on facts and logic and reason in our science departments in America, or is it corporate influenced? It's interesting to look at that, you know. I'm going to have this is going to be part of the topic we're going to be talking at UC Davis. It's funny, and there's going to be some former EPA scientists that have a lot of information to share about, you know, chemicals, et cetera, and Roundup. Here's interesting consumer purchasing behavior about non-GMO products in the past year, and you can see how the older generation that matures. The part in the purple is 2013, and the brown is 2014. So as the brown, you can see as a year later, I don't have the 2015 data, it's more and more people are becoming aware, but the millennials, 61%, they purchase non-GMO products compared to 39 of the matures, or baby boomers, that's my generation, 47. So more and more of the younger generation, your generation, is starting to become aware of some of these issues. So this is a good one. Who's responsible for GMO safety? Who's responsible for GMO safety? Does anybody have any, who thinks it's Monsanto or the FDA? What do you think? So let's look at this. Here's what Monsanto says. Monsanto should not have to vouchsafe the safety of biotech foods. Our interest is in selling as much of it as possible. Assuring its safety is the FDA's job. So Monsanto's saying that's not their job, right? So what do you think the FDA says?
That's Monsanto.
Ultimately, it is the food producer who is responsible for assuring safety. The FDA does no safety analysis on new GMO foods, but they're improving them all the time. And you're going to eat those foods. And matter of fact, you are eating those foods. How does that make you feel? So I'm gonna have to go through. I gotta because I want to make sure. What time was the class over at?
Over at 7.
Okay, I better
You
go
leave
through.
like the last 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go through some questions. Here's an interesting National Academy of Sciences. Okay, now they've actually. So this is what's reported in the media. To date, no adverse health effects attributed to genetic engineering have been documented in the human population. And that's what's repeated ad nauseum in the New York Times, Time Magazine, whatever article. They all say, all the associations, Academy of Science, all say it's safe. And I'm going to go through this other one. This is a great one. They also said this, but this is not put into the media, and you don't hear about this. There remain sizable gaps in our ability to identify compositional changes that result from genetic modification of organisms intended for food, to determine the biological relevance of such change in human health, and to devise appropriate scientific methods to predict and assess unintended adverse effects on the human